wait for you. And I see you're gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna like it. I'm just keep watching.
Just subscribe.
And you think the clip gonna cut right here, but it's not, because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button. And the subscribe and the post notification button.
So in a year filled with a lot of awesome anime, whether it be anime that we expected to be good or anime that surprised us, you would kind of think at this point it's okay if we don't really get anything new that would surprise us or blow our minds, because at this point we have shows like Jujutsu Kaisen to carry us through the year, I guess. But you would be wrong, because there's an anime that surprised even me, and that's Apothecary Diaries. Apothecary Diaries is an anime that took me totally by surprise, based on the fact that, well, if you kind of read the synopsis and also if you look at the picture of the anime, you would think it's a romance anime based on an ancient time. It just looks that way.
Boring.
But you would be correct, but also you would be incorrect, based on the fact that Apothecary Diaries provided us with one of the most interesting characters of this year.
Yes!
And this deep and profoundly interesting character,
Yes!
who could end up being a very powerful figure of this year,
Yes!
when it comes to characters,
Yes!
is called Maomao. Yes, her name is Maomao, which is a weird name, but hey, that's her name. So let's go back and find out what makes Maomao special. And well, you'll find out pretty soon that Maomao has been through a lot, because in the first episode, I noticed 3 things. 1, the animation was surprisingly better than I thought it would be. 2, the opening is a banger. And 3, as soon as I watched the first episode, I realized that this anime lied to me, because it is super vibrant, but what happens in the first episode is not. So Maomao goes and visits some of her friends who work at a brothel. Not the weirdest thing I've heard, so it's okay. Until she then goes home, and on her way home, she gets taken by 3 men, and she is ultimately sold off to a palace, in which she is to spend the rest of her life, well, as far as I know, basically being a worker there. And that was the first episode. In fact, I think it might be the first 15 minutes. And then you would think, wow, okay, so she's been taken away and she's going to be in a palace, which probably means she'll meet the love of her life in a palace. No. What then happens is that something tragic happens in this palace. Now, to explain to you, this palace is not your normal palace, because it's actually a palace that is, well, filled with concubines.
Hey, baby!
Which means basically it's a place where the emperor stores all of his women and does emperor stuff.
Hey, baby!
So you kind of realize that it's a really weird place. It's probably not the type of place you would want a girl like Maomao to end up at, especially considering the fact that no one from her home knows where she is, because she got kidnapped. While she's working there, all of a sudden it comes out that 2 of the concubines who had given birth aren't doing so well. And for some reason we notice that Maomao has a very huge interest in what's going on, and as we learn really quickly, she's fascinated by sick people. Not really sick people, but more about poison. She's just really super fascinated about poison, of which she has an assumption that the 2 concubines are probably sick based on poison. And surprise, surprise, she's correct. Which then now you would think would be a good thing, because she's now helped one of the prominent figures in this palace, so maybe they'd do her a favor of releasing her, or maybe they'd also give her a better position instead of just being a worker around there. No, they didn't. In fact, they gave her a worse job. They made her the concubine's poison taster. Yeah, that's literally what she does. She tests poison. Every single time the concubine gets a meal, Maomao has to taste it and make sure that there's no poison. This is the thanks she gets for literally saving one of the concubine's children.
Bruh.
So you kind of realize early that it's a really messed up world, based on the fact that in the first episode we were at a brothel, then we were at a more high-end brothel.
Hey, baby!
I mean a palace, and then people were getting kidnapped, people were getting poisoned, and then people are now being forced into tasting poison. And you would now think that at this point, Maomao has to be the most saddest person. She's away from home, she's forced into a job that she probably hates, because now every single meal she has to have could potentially kill her. Well, that's the weird thing about Maomao, because Maomao likes poison and she's into poison in a weird way, to the point that, well, Maomao doesn't mind poisoning herself. In fact, she is so obsessed with poison that she has been poisoning herself for a long time. And in fact, she really enjoys poison, to the point that, well, she enjoys the job that she got, which is insane. She enjoys actually finding poison in food because it gives her an opportunity to find cures, which is a weird way of being a test dummy for treatment, but that's what she's into because that's her passion. So she's in a state of bliss to the point that whenever she has to taste things that have possibly been poisoned or deal with situations that involve poison, she is more than happy. But also, you come to understand that Maomao isn't really right in the head. But what pushes this anime beyond your usual royalty-based anime is Maomao. Maomao just doesn't represent herself. She represents the anime, but she also represents the people around her, because Maomao isn't really who she presents herself as, which is something that a lot of the characters within the story have, to present themselves in a way that is suitable for the world that they live in. The concubines aren't all happy that they have to be the emperor's concubines. I think that's pretty obvious, but they have to carry themselves in such a way because that's the type of world they're forced into. And the same goes for Maomao. Maomao's not this logical, cold person. She's more than that. But unfortunately, because of the type of world she lives in, she has to become that. And also, you learn pretty quickly that Maomao goes out of her way to not shine. Because if you look around her, you have a bunch of women who caught the eye of an emperor and now are stuck being his concubine and have to make children for him repeatedly. And also have to deal with the whole I could be poisoned in this place mentality. Maomao came from a worse place. She made friends with people who live in a brothel, a place where a lot of unsavory people would probably be at.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
But she had to call that home at times, and that's where her friends were, and that's where a lot of people that she idolized or looked up to taught her stuff. So for Maomao, she makes herself the way she is, not just because she wants to just act like someone else. She does what she does because she has to. Despite her trying all of this, she literally got kidnapped in the first episode. But you learn that, yes, it's pretty weird that she enjoys poisoning herself, but it's the one thing that she's allowed to be herself at. And that's something that a lot of the people in this anime don't really have the freedom for. They have to carry themselves in a certain way because that's just what they're forced to do. So when Maomao is able to find a world where she can feel safe and also express her passion and her true self, she can't help but find herself to be excited. Now, is it insane? Yes, because there's no way I can try and like switch up a way that, oh yeah, poisoning yourself is pretty cool, you know, it's a passionate thing. I couldn't do that. But despite what it looks like, despite how beautifully colored this anime is, it's a dark anime. And I think that with Maomao being there, she kind of allows us to grow a numbness that has made her seem different. And it's this numbness that Maomao has that actually allows you to feel the world that she's in. Because despite her basically being given a death sentence and her going through so many tragic situations, she's actually better off than a lot of other people, in that she's found a place where she can actually enjoy something that she's passionate about and sometimes let go and be free and happy with some of the things that she's doing, which is something that a lot of the people in this anime aren't really afforded. Even though it's as messed up as it is, a person who's poisoning themselves is actually having more of a good time than people who would be perceived as better off than her, which just shows you how messed up this anime is. And I think that also her numbness being special and making this anime different, it's also something that can kind of be a detriment to the anime, and that because she's so numb and so logical about the world that she's in, and because she has this kind of been there done that type of behavior, it kind of sometimes makes you know what's gonna happen at the end of the episode. It's an anime that almost sometimes seems episodic, like every episode won't always correlate. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but you kind of get the gist. Oh, someone's poisoned, she's gonna find the solution, end of episode. And it's pretty much like that for some cases. But despite it kind of being predictable at times, I think that just as we we're learning a lot more about Maomao, there's more to the story, and ultimately we're gonna find out about it over time. So though this anime may have a kind of predictable vibe, I think there's more to it. And I think that it would be a mistake to think that you know everything or that you could predict what's gonna happen, because I made that mistake when I thought the anime wasn't really gonna be that special, until I was pleasantly surprised. Apothecary Diaries is an anime that you should give a chance, because I think that this show is a gem, and I think that over time we're gonna be pleasantly surprised by this anime.